Hey, what's up, guys? If you're like me, this is the day that you are all excited for as a movie fan. It is Oscar Day, and just like past years, what I like to do, I like to always sit down, and before the show, I go through the Oscar ballot and I kind of do my predictions and see who's gonna win. I've been pretty lucky in the last 3 years, I want to say, where the Oscar polls that I've been involved in, I've actually won or came pretty close to winning. So, figured let's do this video real quick and let me go through my Oscar ballot. Now the Oscars are a little weird this year because, last year with the pandemic and everything, not a whole lot of movies came out. And I feel like a lot of the movies and actors and actresses that have been making big, waves in the recent awards season, it's all the same talk. It's all the same things you hear about. So I don't know if there will be any particular surprises or what have you, but that's why we watch it, right? We watch to see what's going to happen. So interested to hear what you guys think and what you guys are kind of rooting for out there. So as always, like, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you guys are looking forward to for tonight's program, and let's get into my Oscar ballot. So let's go. So this is the ballot, the official ballot, play along ballot from ABC Disney there. So it's all nicely formatted and what have you. It's a little weird the way they bunch things up because, for example, Best Picture is all the way at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the right side first because these are kind of like the smaller categories and everything. So for production design, out of the movies that are listed here, the only movies I will admit that I didn't have a chance to watch it is The Father, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and News of the World. News of the World mainly because it's on Apple Plus, Apple TV Plus, and I don't have that service. So Mank and Tenet are definitely movies that I saw, and based off of what I can tell and based off of how I think the Oscars will think about this, I think the winner will go to Mank here, because Mank, the way it was done and shot up, very well done as far as bringing that old school Hollywood feel. Fincher did a really good job with giving that black and white feel to it and kind of like a throwback to the old movies of that period. And I actually really enjoyed Mank, to be quite honest with you. And I think for production design purposes, I think Mank will actually pull out this win. So leave it there at Mank. Animated short film. Now, I'll be honest here, I didn't see any of these, with the exception of Burrow. Burrow you could easily watch on Disney Plus, and it is from Pixar. And when I watched Burrow, just out of, just on a whim, I saw it listed as a recommendation. I checked it out and I fell in love with that short. I recommended it to everyone I know who I think will be interested in it. So I really do feel Burrow will make its way on with the award here. So I'm going to choose Burrow. Live action short film. I honestly don't have any clue about this stuff. I didn't watch any of these. So I'm going to, again, based off of what I've read and what I've heard around, I'm going to make a guess. And I think Two Distant Strangers is going to win this one. Sound. Now, this is something that I find really interesting because, the art of sound and sound mixing and all that stuff like that is very important to movies, especially if you're doing a movie that really heavily relies on sound. I didn't see Greyhound. Obviously, like I said before, I said Mank. I saw Mank. News of the World I didn't see. Soul I saw, and Sound of Metal I saw. Now, if you watch Sound of Metal, you know how big of an important role sound plays in it, because the main character, played by Riz Ahmed, loses his hearing, and the way they kind of dealt with that and making the audience experience what he was going through, I thought was very phenomenal, and I thought they did a really awesome job at that. So I'm actually going to say that Sound of Metal is going to pull a win here with that one. Going to visual effects, you have Love and Monsters, The Midnight Sky, Mulan, The One and Only Ivan, and Tenet. So as far as what I'm usually I kind of tend to go towards the more heavy visual special effects driven movies here, and I think out of all of these nominees, in my opinion, I think Tenet is actually going to win this one. I think this is going to be the only award that Christopher Nolan is going to get for this movie, with all the controversy surrounding the movie release from last year, how he really like was hell-bent on this being a theater-only experience and was refusing to put this on streaming on demand and all that stuff like that. However, for the movie itself, the way they kind of portrayed the different time and the movement forward and the movement backwards all at the same time on one scene on the screen at the same time was really well done. So I do think Tenet will pull the win out of here. I could be wrong, but I think this is my opinion here. Adapted screenplay. So this is for a screenplay for something that was already previously written that was adapted to the big screen. So you have Borat, The Father, Nomadland, One Night in Miami, and The White Tiger. Now, in my opinion, it is going to be a race between Nomadland and One Night in Miami. So I'm going to go out on a whim here. I do think Nomadland will win. However, this could be an upset. This could be like something that will surprise a lot of people, because I think Nomadland is going to get some of the bigger awards of the night. I'm going to give this one to One Night in Miami. Original screenplay. So this is original, fresh take, not based on really anything that was previously written. You have Judas and the Black Messiah, Minari, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. Now, we all know that Aaron Sorkin wrote The Trial of the Chicago 7, and many people will think that, since Sorkin is very well beloved in Hollywood, he might pull a win here. However, if you saw Minari like I did, you will understand that that movie, the way I saw that movie, was so refreshing, so heartwarming and touching, and really portrayed a nice telling of the writer / director's kind of life growing up as an immigrant, as a foreigner moving to the States and having to raise his family in a new environment, something that they're not familiar with. I thought the story itself was very well done. The acting all around was very well done. So I think out of all the nominees here, I do feel Minari is going to go ahead and pull the win here for that category. Documentary feature. Now, in most years, I'm very good at watching documentaries. However, this year, most of the documentaries that I watched were things that were not even considered to be nominated. If you've watched the podcast or you listened to the podcast or what have you, I have talked a lot about documentaries, and I'm a huge fan of documentaries, but quite honestly, I didn't see any of these. However, from what I hear, I have a strong feeling that possibly My Octopus Teacher is the one who's going to win this award. So let's go with that. Documentary short subject. Again, I didn't watch any of these. I honestly don't even know where I could find a lot of these things. So I'm going to take a big guess here, and I'm going to say the winner here is going to be A Concierto is a Conversation. I think I'm going to go with that one. Again, I'm basing this off of just nothing of anything that I've watched personally, but it's something that I think is a possibility. But we'll see. Also keep in mind that these minor categories are the categories where I usually fail at every year. But it's still fun regardless. And most years I'm actually very well rounded and I'm very caught up with the majority of stuff that I've watched. However, this year was just an off year because of the pandemic. I caught myself watching or doing other things outside of like really keeping up to date with all the movies and things that came out. So I'm a little behind on some certain things here, but I think for the most part, I know what's going on, and I've watched a good amount of the major nominees. So I'll put that out there like that. Film editing, you have The Father, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. So, in my opinion here, as far as film editing is concerned, even though The Sound of Metal was very well done, the way it was like paced and all that, I do feel Nomadland will win this category because watching that movie, it really puts you well in the place of experiencing what these nomads, how their lives are like, the landscapes that they find themselves in. The pacing was actually, in my opinion, very well done. It really felt like a documentary instead of a full length movie. So I do feel Nomadland is gonna pull the win here. For international feature film, I haven't seen a lot of these as well. However, based off of what a lot of people are talking about, and I actually have this on my list myself to watch soon, I'm going to give this to the Mads Mikkelsen starring Another Round. Basically, it's a bunch of teachers sitting around on a table and drinking. But if you're like me, you're a huge fan of Mads Mikkelsen, and I think he's a phenomenal actor, and I do think he's gonna help pull Another Round and get this movie the win here for international feature film. For makeup and hairstyling, you have Emma, Hillbilly Elegy, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Mank, and Pinocchio. Like I said before, Hollywood is a sucker for period pieces, especially throwbacks to Hollywood. So in my opinion, I do feel like this is a tie between Emma and Mank. So what I'm going to do, I think Emma, which a lot of people were talking about last year, saying that this is one of their favorite movies. If you're familiar with Emma, Emma is pretty much like the original story that Clueless was based off of. And it stars Anya Taylor-Joy there. She's better well known from last year on doing the Queen's Gambit series on Netflix. I personally didn't think the movie was all that great. I did find it a little boring at times. However, I will admit that the makeup and hairstyle, as far as like, how everyone looked and all that, I think was very well done. So I am going to give this to Emma. I would have normally have given this probably to Mank, but since Mank was in black and white, it was kind of hard to even acknowledge the amount of effort put into hair and makeup for that type of movie. So in my opinion, Emma's going to probably win this one. For original score, you have The Five Bloods, which is the only category that The Five Bloods was nominated in, which I still think to this day, Delroy Lindo should have been nominated for Best Actor. I think that was the biggest snub, along with Elizabeth Moss not being nominated for Best Actress. So very disappointing there. But you have The Five Bloods, Mank, Minari, News of the World, and Soul. I do think Soul's gonna pull the win here because the music in Soul in general is just fantastic, and it does play a heavy part in the movie itself, given that the main character is a jazz musician, and he teaches jazz, and jazz music in itself is one of the main subject matters of the movie, and how it intertwines with your life and your choices and how to live your life and all that. So I do think the original score will go to Soul. For original song here, now this is going to be one of the categories where I'm going to choose something just because I want to choose it. It's my own personal preference here. But let's go through the nominations here. You have Fight for You, featured in Judas and the Black Messiah, Hear My Voice, The Trial of the Chicago 7, Husavik, Eurovision Song Contest, Low C, Life Ahead, and Speak Now, One Night in Miami. So my personal favorite on this list is Husavik. Eurovision was one of those unique movies that came out on Netflix last year that I fell in love with. You have Will Ferrell and Elizabeth Banks doing their funniest rendition of being Icelandic pop musicians, rock musicians, and this was just one of those feel good type of movies that came out last year. And I think there was a huge push, especially from the Iceland government, to kind of get this song nominated and potentially win the award. So it would be great. Iceland, they have they have a volcano eruption. It seems like every other week going on over there. So it'll be great to see them pull a win here. I'm going to skip Best Picture for later, and let's go into cinematography. Cinematography, you have Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, News of the World, Nomadland, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. In my opinion here, I think Mank is going to be the winner. Again, it made me feel like I was watching those classic black and white movies, and I really, really love that movie because I too am a sucker for like throwback to Hollywood, especially old style Hollywood. That's why La La Land was one of my favorite movies of that year when it came out. Mank, great throwback to the black and white film of that day, especially, you know, when you're dealing with like Orson Welles and the writing of Citizen Kane. So I really do think that as far as cinematography, Mank's gonna pull the win here. Costume design, you have Emma, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Mank, Mulan, and Pinocchio. Again, like I mentioned in hair and makeup, I do think Emma outshines a lot of these titles here for these nominations. So I'm going to give the award to Emma. Again, it's a great period piece, and you know the Oscars are suckers for that. So I think they are going to pull out the win here. Let's move on up here. So let's get into animated feature film. So you have Onward, Over the Moon, a Shaun the Sheep movie, Farmageddon, Soul, and Wolfwalkers. Now, last year we didn't see a lot of animated films being released. However, almost every animated movie that came out were good. I didn't see Shaun the Sheep movie or Wolfwalkers, but Onward, Over the Moon, and Soul were great movies. However, we always know Pixar reigns Hollywood. They seem to always pull up a win every time they get nominated. Now they have two, Onward and Soul. And Onward, very touching movie. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend it. However, Soul capped the year out and made us all feel the feels, and it made us really like, you know, feel so good, and you know, gave us a message of how we should live our life. And I think it was a perfect timing when that movie came out because of the pandemic to kind of lift everyone's spirits up and, you know, move into 2021 with a new look on things and kind of a new goal on how to carry on our lives moving forward. So I do feel Soul is going to win this category here. Actress in a supporting role. So actress in a supporting role, you have Maria Bakalova for Borat, Glenn Close, Hillbilly Elegy, Olivia Coleman for The Father, Amanda Seyfried for Mank, and Yoo Jung-yoon for Minari. All wonderful nominees here, all great performances. I mean, I didn't see The Father or Hillbilly Elegy. Hillbilly was just a movie I just didn't want to see, to be honest with you. And Glenn Close is a fantastic actress, but she doesn't always win. So I don't think this is going to be the year where she will win here. Olivia Coleman previously won before, but I don't think she's going to win here. Amanda Seyfried was the heart of the movie of Mank, and I would love for her to see her win, along with, Yoo Jung-yoon from Minari. Great performance all around. However, if you were to talk about someone who stole a movie, who was not even a main actress, I'm going to say Maria Bakalova is going to, I guess you could say this might be an upset or something that no one was expecting, but I personally do feel she's gonna win in this category. I know they don't usually like to recognize comedies and all that stuff like that, but if Borat was to do anything in this show this year, I would love it to see if Maria can pull off the win here. let's just go up the list here. Actress in the leading role, you have Viola Davis for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Andra Day for The United States versus Billie Holiday, Vanessa Kirby for Pieces of a Woman, Frances McDormand for Nomadland, and Carey Mulligan for Promising Young Woman. Now, Carey Mulligan was kind of the big name that a lot of people were talking about. Especially when Promising Young Woman came out and was making the rounds in the film circuits and the film festivals and all that. But kind of the talk about her has kind of died out a little bit. And it seems that either Viola Davis or Frances McDormand were kind of getting more shine in more recent awards ceremonies. So I know Frances McDormand already previously won, but I think the way things are kind of moving, I do think she's going to pull another win here, and she's going to come away with another Oscar under her belt in this for her role in Nomadland. Now, even though I don't necessarily agree, I do think, in my opinion, it should probably go to Viola Davis here, or even Andra Day. But again, the talk about Nomadland has been nonstop, and her performance, I feel like she was just, there. The real performances should be going to the real people in the movie, because everyone that was featured in that movie, the nomads, so to speak, are all real nomads, and I thought they all did fantastic jobs for not even having previous acting experience. But I think just because of how big the movie is being received, I do feel Frances will pull out the win here. Actor in the supporting roles, we have Sacha Baron Cohen for The Trial of the Chicago 7, Daniel Kaluuya for Judas and the Black Messiah, Leslie Odom Jr. for One Night in Miami, Paul Raci for Sound of Metal, and Lakeith Stanfield for Judas and the Black Messiah. Now, when the nominees were first announced, one of the biggest things that I kind of brought up was, why is Daniel and Lakeith both nominated for supporting actor when it's quite plain as day? This is Lakeith's movie. He is the main actor. However, what I will talk about in the leading role nominee, it was done for a reason, to make room for something. So if you paid attention to the award circuit, Daniel Kaluuya has been kind of running away with things here. And even though I do feel Lakeith is the main person in this movie, Daniel is going to pull out the win here just because of the amount of momentum that he's been getting. And look, a lot of these performances are fantastic. Paul Raci is amazing in The Sound of Metal, and I think if this wasn't a weird year, maybe in another year, he probably would have pulled a win here. He would have pulled a win here, but I do think this will go to Daniel, just like we've been seeing in other award ceremonies. Now, like I said before, actor in the leading role, I think there is one clear winner here, and the reason why there are two nominees for supporting role from the same movie is because this award is going to go to Chadwick Boseman. You have Riz Ahmed, Chadwick Boseman, Anthony Hopkins, Gary Oldman, and Steven Yeun. Steven was amazing in Minari. Gary Oldman was Gary Oldman, as he always is in Mank. Riz Ahmed was phenomenal. He was fantastic in The Sound of Metal. Again, if it wasn't a weird year, or if it wasn't a year marred with such a tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman, maybe this would have been the year he would have pulled a win here. But I do think, just like what we've seen in past ceremonies, the Oscars will use this time to commemorate and pay tribute to Chadwick Boseman for his years of acting in Hollywood. Unfortunately, we lost him way too soon last year due to cancer. And in overall general, if you've watched any of his movies, and I'm not just talking about the Black Panther role in the Marvel Universe, any movie that he's been in, he is a fantastic actor. And he had so many more years left in him of wonderful portrayals of characters on screen. He's such a great talent, and it's very unfortunate, but I do think that Chadwick is the clear-cut winner here, and I don't think anyone else would ever question that. Got the big two going on. So we have directing. So you have another round: Mank, Minari, Nomadland, and Promising Young Woman. Now, Fincher is a darling in Hollywood and in, as also when it comes to moviegoers and cinemaphiles like myself. So I would say Mank in any other year would have pulled this off, in my opinion. However, and Minari is a fantastic film too. And like I said, first time director and writer there. But Chloe Zhao has been the talk of the town for a huge amount of time now, since the middle of last year. And it's going to be a clear-cut winner here. Chloe is going to win for Nomadland. Best Picture, we're down to the last category here, and this is going to be the main category of the evening. You have 8 nominees, not 10, because again, it was an unusual year for because of the pandemic. So not a lot of movies came out, and a lot of the movies that are listed here have been the only main movies that a lot of people were talking about all throughout last year. So you have The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Minari, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. So I think honestly here, again, following how the circuit's been going and what everyone's been talking about, this is going to be Nomadland's year. Nomadland is going to pull off the win here, even though I think Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Minari, Sound of Metal, those 4 movies along were fantastic movies. I mean, it's one of those weird years where even though there weren't a lot of movies, the nominees all listed here for consideration are all worthy of Best Picture of last year. But because of that weirdness, it is kind of hard to pinpoint. But like I said, you can't deny and you can't ignore the amount of talk that Nomadland has been gathering ever since it started hitting the cinema and the circuit of the film festivals from last year. So I do think Nomadland will pull off the win here. If I were to personally have a preference and choose, I think the award should probably go to either Mank or Sound of Metal, to be completely honest with you. 2 phenomenal movies, and like I said, Fincher is a huge darling, and the Oscars are a sucker for throwbacks to Hollywood, the golden age of Hollywood and all that, shall I say. But I do think Nomadland is going to pull off the win here. So guys, we'll see how well I did. I don't know. I'm not as confident as I am in previous years, but I think I have a decent selection here. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts and what you guys think will win. I will have a follow-up video in the coming week to talk about the highs and lows of the show. It's going to be an interesting time, and it's going to be a Zoom show, just like we've seen in other award ceremonies there. So it'll be interesting to see how long the show goes for. I hear there's an after show that's going to happen right after the broadcast of the ceremony. So we'll see. Once again, guys, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe, do the do. I'm me, you are you. Stay cool, stay classy, stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.